Hey there, everyone. It's Bob Martin, the RCSubGuy with the Nautilus Dry Docks here with Jason Butterfield, and we are going to knock out a lightning build here. I'm hoping to have this done within 2 days because we're up against a deadline for the customer. It's been queued up for a while, but he let me know he has a deadline that came up. We're going to do our best to accommodate him. What we're working on is it's an OTW hull. I believe it's a Trafalgar. We got this as part of an estate sale, and we're gonna knock this together. It's not gonna be a scale boat. It's not designed to be representative of any specific boat or even the actual boat. It just needs to be functional because this is for a college, and they're gonna be putting a whole bunch of sensors inside it and using it as a test bed for this sensor system. So we're gonna knock this out as quick as we can. I want to share with you how we're gonna do it. All right, what do we have here? Well, this hull came to us as part of the Eric Kloss estate sale. So Eric had a bunch of boats in his storage bay, and when he passed, they were all kind of liquidated. We got this one. Previous owner, looks like they were doing a lot of really cool stuff with, doing this 3D, I'm assuming these are like sensor windows or something like that. It's on both sides. Again, not super imperative because this isn't going to be a scale boat. Fiberglass kit, and this is from OTW. A few little things we're going to need to address. We got like a little hull gap in here, but for the most part, it's actually going together really well. Now, it came to us with the pump jet already installed, and then I went ahead and put the impeller together here. We just have these kind of set in place right now, and we'll show you some of the intricate details about what you need to do here. But if Jason can pull the top off there real quick. We've gone ahead and put some bulkheads in place along with an orientation pin. Now, the cylinder that's going to be driving this was actually originally built by Dwayne Hill. And this was in a big 48 scale Akula submarine, but it just happens to fit real nice in this boat. We're going to be doing some modifications. This had the forward dive plane output on the top here. We're going to switch that to the forward bulkhead. It's a hybrid system. It uses an air pump as well as a gas backup system in there. It's going to be a low frequency boat, but this is fully functional and ready to go. We just got to mod it a little bit so that it's perfect for this. In terms of drivetrain, where we're starting, I knocked this out real quick. There's no rocket science to this. A stainless steel shaft that came from OTW. It's 4 millimeters in diameter. We put a little 4 mil universal joint on there, and that's going to connect to the shaft in there. You can see the shafts for the control surfaces going to be going in. We're fabricating some yokes right now that'll be used to connect all of those control surfaces. So let's keep going here. We'll show you what we do with these stabilizers and rear planes to make sure that they're mounted really nicely. All right, so in the rear of the boat, back here, obviously you got all of your main control surfaces. You got these horizontal stabilizers that mount the rear dive planes. They hold those in place, and then we got these free-flying rudders. Note how easily these spin. If your control surfaces don't spin like this, you're doing something wrong, okay? All of these stabilizers, they get roughed up along with the mating surface of the rear hull. And ideally what you're going to do is you drill a brass pin in here, or even a threaded rod, and you're going to bolt that to the hull to provide a lot of strength and stability for these parts. The rear dive plane kind of sits in here, and we use a stainless steel washer to provide the proper spacing, right? So this is what this looks like right here. That obviously goes into the hull, and this is adhered permanently to the outside. So we'll go ahead, knock all of this out, make sure that everything's moving really smooth. We're going to be mounting, and Jason is going to cut this for me, a bushing. Oh, look at that. We've already got one cut. And that slips over the shaft, just like that. And this provides our control surface bushing to make sure that it moves nice and smooth inside, and also provides stability for that control surface. All right, what we got here is the assembled yoke. Now these yokes are something that we sell. They're nylon, they're super strong, but they do have a little bit of flex. With this size, that's not really a consideration, and especially if you have your control surfaces set up properly. I've opened up this hole a little bit to, I think it's 5/64, just so this 16th rod goes in there real nice. All stainless steel hardware inside. You don't want to use the steel set screws that come with these things, otherwise they'll rust and you'll never get them out. This wrench that we have in here, we built here. This is just 3/32 rod, and we glued the Allen wrench in there, so now it's nice and long. So you'll see what we can do now, if I can get this set up. Before we install the other side here, we need to slip this on to the drive, or to the control surface, like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and tighten it down. There we go. So I want to center it, tighten it, make sure that this is about in the middle. There we go. And now we've got our control surface installed. Nice and easy, moves really easily. We got good deflection here. It just hits the back of that drive bushing a little bit. And actually what I might do is just tweak this a little bit, because we got lots of down and not quite enough up. So I'm just going to adjust that so that we get more even throw. Just like that. And now we can go ahead and install the second one and get everything all installed, tightened down, and glued. All right, here is the completed linkage assembly in the back there. You can see, I'll grab our dive planes. Nice and easy, good deflection, moves nice and smoothly with no binding. And then the vertical rudders there, to make sure that we don't have any interference issues with the dive planes, we brought two leads forward. And that's what those look like right there. And they're connected to a single output shaft here, linked together with a wheel collar, which means we've got full adjustability for both upper and lower. You always, always, always want adjustability. And we'll be addressing that with this separately once we look at the cylinder. So what we're doing right now, Jason is removing the external power leads from this cylinder, because originally this was set up for an external sealed lead acid battery pack, and we're going to be using this 3.3 amp lithium polymer battery pack, which will be inside the cylinder. So the cylinder will be completely self-contained. When we're all done, we don't need to worry about external power links or mounting a battery in the bow or anything like that. So that's what Jason's working on there right now. So I think the cylinder is going to be our next focus area. I'm going to go grab a radio and start populating our cylinder. All right, a lot of stuff happened yesterday, and we were moving so quickly, we didn't catch all of it on film. So I want to review where we're at right now, because we're basically at the trimming procedure of the boat. We're going to be doing that today, probably getting a coat of paint on it so that we can test this thing coming up here in the next day or so. So hey, let's take a look. All right, here is the boat as she stands right now. Let's start with the cylinder, because that was kind of where we left off in the last video. Did some modifications to the front. We just trimmed off these external power leads. Did a forward mounted servo, and you see just kind of a simple like bracket in there that this is mounted to. Goes through a bellows seal in the front there, and this is connected to the forward dive planes, and I'll show you how that goes in there in a little bit. Other thing we did, internally mounted 3300 milliamp hour lithium polymer battery pack, and I made a little bracket thanks to 3D printing, and that just slips on the front, so the battery just slips in and out, and it doesn't go anywhere. It keeps everything nice and stable. We checked the gas ballast system and adjusted the throw for the ballast servo in here. It's working really, really good. There is a teensy tiny little leak coming from this blow valve in the top there, which is kind of hard to see. Apologize. There you go. So it's just like bubble. That is not a bad thing, because if you were to, for example, to have lost the boat for whatever reason and bottomed it out and can't get signal to it, over time that valve is going to leak and it's going to basically blow ballast. And eventually the boat, in theory, would come back up. So I'm not concerned about that at all. Actually, I think it's kind of a cool little intrinsic fail-safe for the boat. What I'm interested in actually is to see if this size of ballast tank is going to be good for this boat. I think it's going to have tons of positive buoyancy. I think it's going to float like up here. We'll see. In the back here, we did some adjustments to all the throws, installed a pitch controller. We installed a BEC, a battery eliminator there, so that powers the receiver. That's the little receiver in there. This is 72 megahertz. It's a JR radio, 6 channel, but really we're only using 4. So we've got dive planes, rudders, throttle, and ballast, and that's all we're using on this. And here's the remote fob that turns everything on and off. Let's take a look at what we got going on up here. So I told you guys that it was missing a sail. I knocked this out just super fast. It's a simple sail, very reminiscent of the actual Trafalgar sail. So we're just going to sand this down, make it look nice and pretty, rig up a bolt down or bolting system to bolt this to the top. And then we're going to run a mast out the top, which will be the air intake for the ballast system. All of the rear control surfaces have been put in place. And here's our hold down for the upper hull. So this is just like a thumb screw here. I'm going to loosen this off. Just so happened it was M3, which worked out to the same bits and pieces and parts that we have for our cylinders. So I mean, we could use some of that stuff. Take this off and I'll show you what we did here. So we got some pins, some orientation pins here and slots. So on the bottom hull, we've got some pins here and slots here, and then obviously on the upper hull we've got pins here and slots here, and that just keeps the orientation of the hull so that it's nice and smooth. So that actually works really well. It's a little tricky to rig it up so that everything is perfect. We used a compass. This is the kind of the procedure that we did. Measured out the precise spot on the upper hull, and then used this to draw these lines to show exactly where to mill out those slots. And the reason these slots are oblong is because the hull is put down from the front and then it falls back down. And so when those pins are actually coming in from an angle, and so we needed to make these a little oblong in order for the pins to work there. We also threw some weight in the bottom. This is just a guess. These are all self-adhesive 1/2 ounce weights. We offer these in the store here at the dry docks. We'll see how close we came. There's a lot of buoyancy in this cylinder that we're going to need to offset with the weight, and also to provide static stability for the boat. Here's the final linkages. You can see that these are connected. Nice and easy, moves really well, nice and loose. Same thing with our dive planes here. And we've got them all rigged up, and we've tested the throws. Everything is good. We've got good throws for all of the linkages. And then there's our forward dive planes. You see, basically, there's just like a little hook under here. That just slips right in here, and that's what moves our forward dive planes. So today's work: clean up the sail, get it sanded down a little bit, rig up a bolt down system to get that mounted to the upper hull, and then we are going to be throwing it in the test tank, and I'll be showing you guys that testing procedure because a lot of people are confused or concerned about the trimming procedure for their boats, we'll show you how we do it. We'll see how close we made it with this guess for weights. And yeah, I'll knock this thing out. All right, we are out in the back of the shop with our test tank. This is a 6 foot by 2 foot trough for livestock. If you manage to get one, these are super cool for trimming out your boat. They'll handle everything except the biggest boat that you have. So if you're serious RC Submariner, this is what you want. This boat is basically ready to go. We've got the sail attached. We've got the intake for the pump up on top there, sticking out. It's completely dry. You can see we're not cheating. This is going to be the first time it goes in the water. Now, Jason thinks she's going to sit stern heavy, which I think he's probably right, because all the business end stuff is in the back there. So we're going to switch the camera around and we're going to drop it in, see where it fits, or where it sits. So I want you to notice before we drop it in, we got 2 rubber bands, one on the back and one in the front. This isn't holding the boat together. You'll see what we're going to be using that for in a minute. So let's see what happens. Hull's flooding. Oh yeah, that's a little stern heavy. Oh. Okay. So I think we've got the correct amount of overall buoyancy. It's just all in the back of the boat, or the front of the boat. So actually, you know what I think we're going to do, Jason? Rather than goofing around with the foam first, I think what we'll do, we'll throw this back on the bench and move all that weight that we have in the back up into the front. Because we've got the correct amount of overall buoyancy, it's just in the wrong spot. So we're going to, everything basically from halfway back, we're going to move up to the front. Then we'll see how she sits. All right, just a reminder of where we're at. So we're thinking we're going to take all this weight here and move it up into this area here. So hopefully, does that come out nice? Oh yeah. So this self-adhesive stuff, it works okay. We're going to need to like glue it after we get it all figured out, because this will be shipped. And obviously we don't want weights falling out everywhere, but these self-adhesive, they're super convenient for this trimming exercise. So we're going to move all these weights, dunk it again. Okay, here is our revised ballast arrangement in the bottom. Again, notice as low in the hull as possible. I wouldn't go any higher than this. All of our buoyancy right now is completely being offered by the cylinder. There's no foam in the boat. So if you guys have like an OTW boat that has similar, large volume, you probably got enough buoyancy just from the cylinder without the need for foam, except probably for some small blocks, which we'll get to here in a little bit. So we're gonna throw the cylinder back in the boat, get this thing back in the tank. All right, take 2 with redistributed weight. I think we're going to be close. Oh, look at that. It's listing? Okay, all right. That's kind of weird. The cylinder itself must have components inside that are off-center. That's the only thing I can think of. Now, when you tipped it, air came out of the ballast tank. So now that their tank has a little bit of water in it and the nose is floating low. So let's lift it out. I'm just curious to see how it's going to sit when we vent the tank. So let's go ahead and turn on our radio, turn on the boat. Here, you can, so left stick to the right.
Did you turn the boat on?
I did. All right, yeah, you can see the nose is going down first. All right. So we need foam high. It's still leaking out of the... Oh, you know what we never did? We never drilled a vent in the top of the sail. That was silly. What's that going on there? What's going on there? So I think our tank is like way bigger than it needs to be. I'm pretty sure. Which isn't a massive problem. Better have too much tank than not enough tank. But we need to put some... Oh, there's the... All right. The fact that it's listing so much is kind of telling me we need to add a bunch of weight low and more foam up high to create the static stability that we need. So part of the... Give it another little burp. Part of the... there we go. All right, so it's fully empty. We can put foam up high below the surfaced water line, particularly on the port side, and that'll straighten it out. So let's put it back on the bench. We'll put a bunch of foam. So where is that water line? Just out of curiosity, it is right under this forward doomerhickey majigger sensor thingy. All right, this is like the third time in the tank. So we added foam on the one side to offset the list, and then a little bit on the other side to provide some more buoyancy. And we've got foam in the very top, right here, above the water line. So that foam only comes into play when we're in submerged trim. So we're sitting stern heavy. So what we want to do is get some more foam, and we're going to put it above the surfaced water line as far back in the boat as we can get it. All right, I think we have the correct amount of foam and weight. Now we just need to make sure that we can find a home for that where it's not hitting the cylinder or any of the linkages. 2 little 1/2 ounce weights, one here and here, and yeah, and just that little block, which we know we'll be able to put. There's room up there, but we ballasted it so it's got a 1/2 inch of sail. So there's always positive buoyancy in this boat, which is a safety factor. Of course, it's got the capability of full static diving, but these people don't know anything about submarines who are getting it, so we're going to dummy proof it for them. Let's kick on the air pump and we'll see how she surfaces. So part of the reason it was listing over there is because that weight was in the very top of the sail, pulling it over. All right, so this would be surfaced trim. And it's basically perfectly level. It's probably sitting a tad high, but I'm okay with that. All right, we think we have it nailed down. This is like the 6th time we've dunked the boat. Got the weights all situated, we got the foam all situated, so we're going to watch for surface trim, how it submerges, if it's on an even keel, and then how the submerged trim is. So let's take a look. All right, hull's filling with water. It's sitting level. All right, let's turn this thing on. Power, antenna, power. All right, double check, make sure we got power, the rudder's working. All right, dive. This cylinder is likely a little bit big in diameter for this boat, because in surface trim the top part of the cylinder is actually above the water line, so it's submerging almost perfectly level. Still got some air coming out there. All right, I think so. What happened there? The vent for the tank is in the back part, so it's basically almost. No, there's our positive buoyancy. That's what we're after. That's what we're after right there. Maybe just a nickel's worth of, well, still shifting back. Nickel's worth heavy in the front. But I think we're good. Now, if you take a look at this boat, the forward dive planes actually are oversized. I don't even know if they're the proper planes for this kit, but they're huge. And then in the back, they're huge as well. I am going to hazard a guess that this thing is going to react really, really well to pitch input. So I'm going to say we're probably trimmed at this point. They could probably tweak it a little bit more, but it's good enough for wet trials right now. One thing I do want to do, let's just get that nose just right up against the end there. And we're going to give it some throttle. I want to see how statically stable it is. We're going to kick the throttle on and we're going to see if it heels over. A tiny bit. Boy, look at that thing move water.
Oh, yeah.
She's got some thrust. All right. So, stable. Oh yeah, I'm happy with that. So you test the static stability. You can heel it over and then just watch how it rights itself. And that's what you want. You want a nice righting moment for the boat, so you don't get this torque-induced roll. So when you kick the throttle, the thing heels over to the side like this. So I'm gonna say we're ready. Let's kick the pump in. We'll watch the surfacing action. Came up nice and level.
Ever so slightly.
Tiny little list to starboard. It's actually getting better as it surfaces. There we go. All right. Now we need to dry it out, secure all the weights with some water-soluble adhesive, just to make sure there are no water drops are going to mess with our adhesion. And then paint it up, get it looking like a boat. All right, so trimming procedure is done, and now we're in the final stages. We got the upper hull sanded nice and smooth. We're just waiting for all of the little micro drops of water to evaporate so we don't ruin any of the paint. We're doing a rattle can paint job. The paint that we like to use for realism, for these quick and dirty paint jobs, is Rust-Oleum chalked paint. And that is a really dark gray color, which is what you want for modern submarines. When you take a look at modern boats, from a distance, they read as dark gray, even though up close they may feel black. If you paint it pure black, they look weird. They don't look right, so don't do it. They need to be sort of a dark gray color, and we'll weather it up a little bit, kind of make it look cool afterwards, with some super simple techniques, which I'll share with you. What Jason's working on right now, we've got the cylinder opened up. After every dip in the water, always open up your cylinder in case there's some drops in there. Just make sure that nothing gets messed up. And we also pulled the battery out to charge up, and that's on the charger right now. What Jason's doing is securing all of these weights with water soluble. I love this stuff. I love Gorilla products. This is a water soluble clear, and the reason we are using water soluble is because if there is any water drops in there, that glue will actually just mix with them and fully cure out. Now if we were using, a more chemical based one, it doesn't play with water nice. So we would have had to have waited like a day before we'd be able to secure those. But this dries into a really nice sort of flexible adhesive. It works really, really good. I love that stuff for purposes like this. So I'm going to finish that up, let it all dry, paint the boat, and hopefully within the next day or two get this out to the pond and give it a try. So I think we're going to leave this video at this point because basically we built out the boat. It's ready for wet testing. We're going to do another video giving you an overview of everything as well as showing you the wet trials. So in the meantime, thanks for joining us on behalf of Bob Martin, the RCSubGuy, and Jason. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.